The day I accepted my very first leadership role, I got a call that changed things for me. And instead of leading, I sat in my car and cried. You may think being skilled at your job is enough to make you successful in your role as a new leader. But the thing that actually sets you apart isn't your skills. It's learning how to handle your emotions. And it is a critical part of successful leadership. Hi, I'm Jen Arnold, and I help new leaders navigate their first management role. And if you're like me and like most new leaders, you probably got promoted because you were good at your job. But when you become a leader, emotional intelligence matters more than technical skills. In other words, EQ is greater than IQ. And there's research to back this up. Research from Talent Smart EQ found that people with high emotional intelligence make an average of $29,000 more per year than those with a lower EQ. They also found that 90% of top performers are high in emotional intelligence, but only 20% of bottom performers are. So yes, emotional intelligence matters for your career. Now, if you want to see how you are doing with managing your emotions plus 4 other leadership principles, I've got a 2-minute assessment called the Guide Assessment that'll show you where you're strong and where you may be getting in your own way. The link is in the description and on the screen. So that day after saying yes to my first leadership role, I got a call from my soon-to-be boss. And he said to me, "Hey Jen, the budget has changed." That meant that I wasn't going to get the top tier team that I had been planning for. The senior leader that we worked under decided I didn't need high level talent because it was just the wellness team. We could make do with whatever we got. I think I held it together pretty good on the phone. And then I got in my car to go to my friend's house for a social event. And I just started crying, like bawling about this. I called my friend up and I said, "Hey, look, I'm not going to make it." She could barely understand me. I was crying so hard. And then I went home and I sulked, kind of questioning if I should have taken this leadership role in the first place. Now, many years later, I can look back and say, yeah, it wasn't the moment or the challenge that derailed me. It was my reaction. Now, here's the thing. We all come into our organizations and we all come into leadership with different skill sets for managing our emotions. Mine weren't great. I wasn't taught how to manage my emotions as a kid or as a young adult. And it wasn't until I got trained in resilience that I actually learned how to regulate my emotions. And here's what I've learned. Leadership over the course of time doesn't really get easier. You just come to expect that stuff doesn't always go your way. And there's going to be challenges ahead of you. It's almost like you are driving on a road with potholes that you really can't avoid. And that's much like leadership. So when you get to your next step and your next step in leadership, challenges are going to continue to come up. Your team's going to disappoint you. Upper management is going to drop the ball and probably roll out something you don't agree with. Your best laid plans will get derailed. At some point, you're going to feel underestimated, overextended, and undersupported. And every time these challenges come your way, you're going to face a choice. Will your emotions lead you, or will you lead yourself? And that is the real work, especially if you weren't given those tools to manage your emotions. It's that inner work that you need to do before you can lead others. And if you don't learn this as a new leader, you will limit your own success and you'll potentially cap your salary. So how do you actually lead yourself when your emotions are running hot? Here are 4 strategies that have helped me over my leadership career. Strategy number 1, pause before you do anything. Pause before you process. It is easy to feel an emotion or feel a whole host of emotions. And in the name of processing it, we talk about it to anyone and everyone who will listen. Or maybe we send that email when we need to prove our point, or we need to feel like we need to respond right away. Or we get defensive and really stick into our position when we're hearing something that you don't agree with or that you don't like. Now, I'm sure you've heard this before. You've heard pause before responding. But I want to really emphasize on why this is so important and what is happening inside your brain when this happens. So when you get a strong emotion or emotions, what happens is there are a flood of hormones that go on, and your prefrontal cortex, or your CEO of the brain, it goes to lunch. It goes offline. Your logical thinking brain is not working effectively, which means you're not thinking logically, and you are reacting out of emotion instead of responding with intention. And unfortunately, people see that. When that flood of emotions comes in, you need about 6 seconds to get your thinking brain, that CEO, to come back from lunch and get back online. So pause. Draft the email, but don't send it. Tell somebody, if you're triggered, let me think about that and get back to you. And watch who you're venting to, which leads me to my next strategy. Be careful who you vent to. Now, I know venting is so easy to do. It kind of feels like we're getting it all out, we're processing our emotions, and that it is good for us. Okay, it's not. Research shows that verbalizing your anger doesn't actually help it go away. Complaining just makes you feel worse. Venting also doesn't help the situation. It's not problem solving, it's problem stewing. Plus, if you vent to the wrong person, it can undermine your credibility, and it can actually get back to that person you're complaining about, which is what happened to me. I had to learn this the hard way. I had an executive I really didn't love working for. And one day I was having a conversation with a vice president, and it was about something different, but I just decided to tell this VP that I didn't like my executive. Guess what happened? That VP went straight back and told her. The tricky part is that VP seemed like she cared. She was listening. She was really seemed like she was empathetic to my struggles. But you know what she cared about? Her upward mobility, not this new manager coming into her office who couldn't contain her emotions. So here's what I learned. Be careful about who you process with. Don't vent to peers who report to the same boss. You don't want to vent up and you don't want to vent down. You really just get out of your reporting line completely when you're venting. Find somebody outside of your reporting line, a mentor, a coach, a therapist, a friend in a different department. You can also process solo, journal, or even just dump it into AI for just a way to get it off your chest. The bottom line is this. Find a way to work through your emotions with someone you trust. Strategy 3. Practice acceptance to give yourself options. All right, let's go back to the same executive that I was venting about. I spent months being frustrated and complaining and hoping she'd change. Finally, I decided I had to practice the concept of acceptance. This means is accepting what is, reality. And the reality is you can't change other people. So knowing that, I asked myself, what are my options? And I went through them. I can stay and just continue to complain. That's always an option. I can leave and go to another department or leave the organization. Or I can stay where I am and know who this person is and work around it. The acceptance doesn't really make it fun. It doesn't make anything change except yourself. And what it did for me is it gave me back my agency. It made me feel more empowered. When you are stuck in frustration, I want you to ask yourself, where am I resisting reality? What is actually the truth of what is going on here? And what are my options? Take your power back. Please know that acceptance isn't giving up. It's not saying it's okay. It's really just saying it's how it is, so you can move towards some positive action for yourself. All right, strategy 4. Watch your mood because your team feels it. Here's what leaders don't realize. Your emotions are contagious, And your team is constantly reading your emotions and kind of scanning your emotional state. And it's not just what you're saying, it's how you're showing up. Over 70% of communication is nonverbal. We deeply react to each other's tone of voice, our body posture, and our facial expressions. So no matter the words someone says, if they look angry or they feel stressed or there's judgment in their tone of voice, you're going to feel it and you may read into it. Researchers call this emotional contagion. This happens when you mimic the emotions and expressions of the people around you. It's often unconscious. You don't even know that you're doing this. Think about it this way. Have you ever been in a pretty good mood or even a neutral mood, and then somebody comes into the room and they're huffing and they're puffing and they just exuding all this stress, and then suddenly you noticed that your mood shifts? That's emotional contagion. So the energy we have is the energy that we're bringing others. We often don't know we're the ones doing it, but we know when we're on the receiving end. So if you find yourself spiraling, overwhelmed, stressed out, just know your team can potentially feel it and read into it. Your mood sets the temperature for your whole team. So the next time you're around your team, I want you to ask yourself this question. What energy am I bringing into this interaction? Let's recap the 4 ways to manage your emotions as a leader. First, pause before reacting. Second, watch who you vent to. Third, practice acceptance so you can create options for yourself. And finally, fourth, be aware of your mood and how it is rubbing off on your team. So here's a challenge for you. Start tracking where your emotions are driving your decisions. Now, awareness is the first step because you can't change what you can't see. And if you want a clear picture of where you stand as a new leader on emotions, but also on other leadership principles, including delegation, development, and having hard conversations, grab the free guide assessment, and it takes about 2 minutes. Links in the description and on the screen. So the bottom line is this: your emotions don't have to run the show. You get to decide. Now, my next video is going to be the I in my guide framework, and it is investing in the development of your people. And hit the subscribe button if you want to get notified when that video is live. Thanks for watching.